You need to include breath work in your daily routine, or you are at risk of emotional energy blockages. So there are hundreds of different exercises in pranayama yoga, which is the yogic science of breath. So what we've done as part of our self-healing systems is that we've chosen 3 different exercises, which are the simplest exercises, but also the most effective for their simplicity. We've also put a little bit of our own spin on them as well. So what we're going to start with today is basic yogic breathing. So basic yogic breathing is pretty much the most basic, simplest breathing rhythm that you can start in pranayama yoga. And it involves a breathing rhythm and a technique to get right. So before we start, there's 2 things to mention before you do breath work if you haven't done breath work before. The first one is that we can get a little bit dizzy if you do too much of it. Now, that's completely normal. It's just an influx of oxygen into the system. If that happens, you just stop for a while, let it pass. You can then carry on afterwards. It's not a problem. And the more used to breath work you get, the less that happens. Now, the second thing is that it's very common for people to get a flush of emotion sometimes when they're doing breath work. Now, this can happen at any time of the day, or it can happen while you're doing the breath work as well. Now, if that happens, then that's actually a good thing because you are releasing emotion. Now, what do I mean by a flush of emotion? Well, it's actually not uncommon to actually burst into tears sometimes, or you just have a feeling of an emotion or a flush of emotion. That's actually a very good thing. What's happening is that those blockages that we hold in our chakras, in our energy body, are actually being released. And when we release them, we feel a tinge of that emotion that actually caused them in the first place. So we're releasing emotional traumas, we're releasing emotional memory from the past. So that's a good thing if that happens. Now, for this exercise, we want to use the nose if possible. Now, there's hundreds of breathing techniques that exist. Some use the nose, some use the mouth. For this one, it's best if you use a nose. It doesn't really matter too much, though. So if you've got a blocked nose or something like that, then you can use a bit of the mouth. It's not a problem. And also for this one, you want to have a vertical spine. So you want to be sitting upright if you can. Now, some people do this lying down, and it is possible to do it lying down, but you can't get as much air into your lungs when you're lying down. So it's better if you're either stood up or sat up like this. So first, let me talk you through the technique, because you have to get the technique right. Now, first of all, on the in-breath, when you start the breath, the belly has to come out. Now, that's a little bit counterintuitive sometimes, because you think sometimes if you're breathing in, then your belly's got to come in. Well, actually, it's the opposite. So the diaphragm comes down and out when you breathe in. So the belly comes out. So breathe in. But then your lungs are only half full of air. The chest comes out next. And then your lungs are almost completely full of air, but actually there's a little bit left. So you throw your shoulders back a little bit, chin comes up, and go all the way to the top. So you're cramming in as much air into your lungs as you possibly can. And then on the out breath, it's just a slow, steady stream all the way to the bottom of the breath. So let's talk about the counting now. So on the in-breath, you want to count to around the count of 4 or 5, but everyone's lungs are slightly different, so it may be more or less for you. But around the count of 4 or 5 for the in-breath. And then on the top of the breath, you want to hold your breath for a couple of seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, something like that. And then on the out breath, it's another count of 4 or 5. And then at the bottom of the breath, you want to hold your breath again for another count of 2 or 3. So let me demonstrate. And there we go. Simple as that. Now, there's a few different ways you can use this breath work. You can use this breath work as what we call an emergency toolkit. So if you're having a negative emotional reaction at some point in the day, you can use this to reset yourself. It sort of helps to cut the emotional cycle in half. It certainly calms you down. So you can use it any time in the day when you're locked in a negative emotional reaction. Now, you can also use it to go to sleep at night as well. If you do it for a little bit longer, you'll find that it will make you a little bit sleepy. So if you do struggle getting to sleep, you can do it before you go to bed. But be careful there, because if you go a little bit longer, then what you'll find is that it starts to energize you. And then you don't want to be doing it before going to bed. Then it will be a better time to do it in the morning. So it depends how long you do this for, but everyone's slightly different. So you've got to feel it yourself and find those timings for yourself. Now, do that exercise for a month or so before moving on to the next exercise, which I'm going to post soon. You want to make sure that the technique and the counting becomes completely automatic before moving on to the next exercise. Okay, any questions? Leave them in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more of these videos.